Hi Eric, thank you for giving me the opportunity to work on the file you sent me, and just want to show you the way I would have analyzed this. So when we spoke on the phone, you showed me this summary tab, and I've got some things highlighted in yellow. We'll get into why these are highlighted in yellow. I understand that these fields are the ones that you wanted to focus on. You didn't focus on cost as much. These fields come from the diagnostic tab all the way through the structural tab. I understand that. So let's get into what I did. So I aggregated all of those tabs, diagnostic through structural, into my own tab, and I called it table data. We've got discipline, it could be location or whatever you want to call it, a procedure name, procedure code. Here is the information that was given to me within those tabs. You didn't focus on total direct costs when we spoke, nor in your summary. You didn't focus on total indirect cost. Also, another thing that I noticed is we go from charges to estimated net revenue. So there's something before you get to net revenue or an expense that brings the charges down to the net revenue. And I'm wondering if that's salary, it could be salaries. I called that unknown expenses right here. We'll get into what that is. As you can see, it goes from charges to unknown expenses to estimated net revenue. Again, from charges to unknown expenses to estimated net revenue. So here is the information provided in the tabs. And then I did a lot of per encounter information, and I colored that blue. Here is my per encounter information. And then I did a lot of percentage information. For example, net revenue percentage, contribution percentage, direct cost percentage, percentage of net revenue. So all of these are percentage of net revenues. So that's my raw table data. Now let's go to my high-level summary. High-level summary, I also grouped it by like fields. So for example, here on the high-level summary, I've got volume, total charges, estimated net revenue, direct costs, contribution, indirect costs, net margin. Then my next set of information, I've got everything as a percentage of net revenue. So I've got average net revenue as a percentage of charges, obviously. Then I've got average direct costs as a percentage of net revenue. I've got average contribution as a percentage of net revenue. Average indirect costs as a percentage of net revenue. Average net margin as a percentage of net revenue. So that's information as a percentage of net revenue. And then my lower level bottom here section, I've got everything at a per encounter basis. Charges per encounter, net revenue per encounter, direct costs per encounter, which you didn't speak about cost much, but it's interesting to analyze that further if we have the data within the database. Contribution per encounter, indirect cost per encounter. Again, you didn't focus on that. Net margin per encounter. Now, I want everything ties perfectly. So let me show you what I mean. On your summary, contribution, 14 million. Net margin, 5.5 million. Let me show you mine. Contribution, 14 million. Net margin, 5.5 million. Now, here, contribution per encounter, we don't tie. And I've got two of these highlighted that don't tie. These three do tie. These three, EPS, pacer, and structural. Let me show you yours. 14, 16, and 5.7. 14, 16, 5.7. So we do tie there. However, we don't tie in these two, and I'll show you why. In your summary, you've got 16K and I've got 3K. Now let's go into diagnostic to look at that. 16K, look at what you did here. You did a sum instead of an average. So an average is correct, but you did a sum. Everywhere else you've got an average. And average is the right way to look at it. Average. Again, here you did a sum, so that throws it off right there. And therapeutics, what you did do an average, but the problem here is that you didn't include a margin per encounter for this one or for this one. And the margin per encounter would be operating margin because there's only one encounter. And here similarly. And if we do that, let me show you what happens. So I'm going to select it, select this, select this, select this, select these. Look at my average, 50,325, not 25,000, but 50,325. Let me show you where, see, 50,325. So I just want to show you that my numbers are valid and they're accurate, and I'm going to get rid of that fill because I don't want that to distract you when you're looking at it, and I'm going to get rid of this color here too. But I just wanted to show you that my data is accurate, consistent, and comparable. You can compare it, apples to apples, because according to how you summed it up, here you can't compare, because here you did a sum, and that should have been an average. Again, let's move past that. So again, I already explained what this high level summary is, and this gives you a good kind of sense temperature. Still, with this level of information, it's hard to say which are the encounters that are not worthwhile, because we're just looking at really high level summary per discipline, by metric or fields, per discipline, by percentages, per discipline, by encounter. So which encounter is not profitable? I don't know. Very hard to tell. Now let's look at the analytics. Here I've got a pro forma income statement. And again, I spoke earlier about an unknown expense that brings me from charges to estimated net revenue. And I'm assuming that is salaries, but it could be many other things. I don't know. I need to look at the data. But this is a pro forma income statement. And I want to show you that it ties. So for example, grand total net income, 5,419,000. Okay, right here, 5,419,000. Let me show you where that is. Right here, 5,419,000. Okay, so everything ties. Let's go back to analytics, because here we can really analyze. Again, this first section is high level totals, exactly the same as this. Now this one here is percentage information, again exactly the same as this. And here we've got per encounter information, again exactly the same as this. And it's exactly the same because I have not selected anything. I've got everything selected. I haven't identified the encounters. So and again, let me show you something else. Here I've got table data. So here is by procedure code, procedure name, and I've got a few fields here that are interesting to me. Sum of contribution, sum of net margin, average contribution, average of net margin. Now let me show you how to play with this, and I call it a sandbox. How to play with this sandbox area to really identify which are the procedure codes that are not worthwhile according to this information. So here, let me just show you quickly. I've got a procedure code chart. It's got all the procedure codes, and you've got sum of contribution and sum of net margin, blue and green. Here I've got it by discipline or location. I've got and again, I've got sum of contribution in blue, sum of net margin in green. All right, so let's drill down. Let's see which are the procedure codes that aren't good. So it depends how you want to look at it. Let's first look at it by percentage range of contribution. So if the percentage range of contribution is 20%, negative 20% or worse, that's really bad. So if I select this, let me show you what happens. This tells me all the CPT codes right here. All I did was, and this button is to clear my selection. So I clear my selection if I want to see everything. Now let me just select it again. I'm just going to click on it. I want to click on negative 20 or worst. These are the CPT codes that give you a negative 20 or worst contribution margin percent. Here they are. And so based on that selection, my graph changes as well. My graph adjusts to whatever I select on that sandbox area, both of my graphs, okay? These are really bad, right? Negative 20 or worse. So let me show you, which are these? Okay, great. These are the codes right here. Okay, we've got 4 procedure codes that are giving you a sum of contribution of negative 31,000, sum of net margin of negative 83,000. The pro forma ties perfectly, okay? Negative 83,000, negative 83,000, negative 83,000 right here, okay? It comes from here. And so everything ties. So you can say that definitely these are the -20 or worse. These are the worst, -20% or worse. These are the worst CPT codes. You could also say, okay, 0 to -19% is also bad. And to select that, I press the Control key and I click on it. So I've got that selected and that selected. Okay, these are really bad. Again, we've got -290 net margin. Okay, here it is, -290. It's right here also, -290. And again, right here. And here you got per procedure, and you've got the procedure codes that you need to either get rid of or really work on. But these are the procedure codes that are giving you, really bad deficits. Okay. So this is a range of contribution percentage, and here again, this will tell you where it's happening. You see the diagnostic, it's not selected because of this selection. So let me clear the selection. Let's now look at good ones. Let's look at 50% or greater. Okay, these are good. These are where the contribution margin percentage is 50% or greater. That's great. Look at all the CPT codes where a contribution margin is 50% or greater. That's awesome. So let's look at these graphs. Here you go, CPT code where 50% or greater. Here is contribution, sum of net margin, and here you want to look at it by discipline. Here it is. But again, these are good. These are CPT codes that are performing well. Now let me clear that selection. Now here on this box, you can select the items that are the percent range for net margin. If the percent range for net margin is -20 or worse, that's going to select more here because we're talking net margin, not contribution margin. So between contribution margin and net margin, okay, there's indirect cost. So that's why when you select here, it's selecting, some that are profitable here, okay, because this is again net. So if you were to ask me quickly, tell me which are the worst ones that if we could, at a touch of a button, get rid of them and never do them again, which are those? I would say this one, this range, and I would say this range. You got to get rid of those. And that is these CPT codes right here. And you can see there's only 6 of them, but they're giving you really bad numbers, okay? 290, net margin, contribution, -44. Again, here is a pro forma, and here you can look at the CPT codes and the disciplines. So again, this is just a way to look at data and analyze and really get answers as to, being able to identify things. Again, when you press those buttons, these graphs move. But again, these buttons, you can clear them like this, and you can select anything. Let's say you just want to look at this center. Okay, great. Let's look at this discipline. Okay, we're just looking at EPS. And here it is. Here's the information. And again, the discipline, it's right here, just EPS, because that's all we've got selected, just EPS. That's all we have selected. If we look at EPS, and now I'm going to hit the Control key on my keyboard and structural. Okay, great. EPS and structural, there's your information. And if we select EPS and structural, what are the CPT codes? Okay, they're right here. These are the CPT codes. Okay, they give you that. Sum of contribution, 6.5 million. Sum of contribution, 6.5 million. So everything ties. So it's this sandbox area is a great way to analyze things. Again, you could just select CPT codes. I can just click and just drag, and I arbitrarily select that. If I arbitrarily select that, it tells me, what centers they are, what percentages they are, percentage range of contribution, percentage range of net margin. There's just a lot in. Click this to clear it. There's a lot of ways to analyze it. I could just select one CPT code. Okay, if I select that one CPT code, it happens in structural department and it's -20 or worse. It just happened to be that way. Let me select a different one. I'm going to select that one. Okay, that seems to be a really good one. 21% to 35%. Great, that's a really good CPT code. It's right there. That's all the information. But again, if I need to give you an answer, which are the worst ones that are performing really bad, I would definitely say this one. And if I have to pick another one, this one, because these are negative 20% or worse. The contribution margin is negative 20% or worse, and 0 to negative 19%. And then you select that. These are the CPT codes. So again, and here's pro forma based on your selection. Here's graph data based on your selection. And to clear it again, you go right here. Click that to clear it. Clearing it means you've got everything selected. So again, I hope this has been helpful and informative in the way that I look at and analyze things and how I work on things. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Maybe we can get on a video call and I could share my screen. Hope this gives you a good idea of my work product and my abilities. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Eric. Have a great day.